Man, glad to have you here, Frat.
What's up, bro? Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here. Honored, man. Honored. I love what you're doing, man. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it. I know a lot of the bros gonna give you hell and be like, why Watson get to be the first one? So I'm like, he's my AD. So
hey, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Follow the chain of command. Hey, what up, young scholars? It's your boy, the extra large professor, commonly known as Mr. 1906 A5A. You know what I'm saying? Today, I have a special guest from my chapter, Zeta Gamma of University of Central Missouri, or as we know, CMSU. Give it up for financial expert and sports dad, Robert Watson II. All right. Train is a slow. Let's just chop it up and get it right into it. The Fatherhood ChopUp is about fathers getting together, chopping it up to let the world know our narrative, and especially being men of color. You know, we commonly don't get a chance to share our story to the world. The Alpha train is a slowly.
My father, very multi-layered young man. I mean, you know, he was the provider, kind of like set the spiritual foundation for us in the household. But like I say, I think from him, that's where I got my work ethic from. It was not uncommon for him to work 16 hours a day, 5 days a week.
You wouldn't know anyone looking for a job, would you? Me, I want
a job, me. So, you know, just extremely hard worker. He was a disciplinarian. My mother, she'd be like, if we did something that got out of pocket, she was like, wait till your daddy get home.
I wouldn't do that just yet. Your ass is mine.
And he never, ever skipped his discipline. Like, he came home. You could had the covers up, pretending like you sleep, but he came home, tap you on your shoulder, and be like, come on. You know, time, you know, get, you know, the basement was the dungeon, basically. That's what we got.
No.
So he'd be like, get downstairs, you know. That's what it was. But yeah, he was I'd say my father's a good man, but complicated. You know, my father, I didn't find out until you know, I was almost an adult that I had other siblings. My father was married before he was married to my mother. I didn't know that. And so I didn't grow up with them. I didn't have a relationship with them. I actually just met them maybe in the last 5 or 6 years. That's when I met my other siblings for the first time. And it didn't really go as smoothly as you would think. I mean, there's a lot of resentment there. And for me, my first reaction was to try to defend my father, because their experience and my experience was not the same. So, but you know, then, you know, as I stepped back from it, I was like, I can understand. Like, how would I feel if, from my perspective, my father and my mother didn't work out for whatever reason, but that didn't have anything to do with me. And then my father starts a whole new family, and we're seemingly put on a back burner. And so that's why I say, you know, my father, it's weird because, you know, having spoken to my other siblings about that, their perspective and my perspective are different, because we had two different experiences with the same man. So
the Alpha train is a slowly coming.
So I would say on I'll talk about the positives first, and then I'll talk about the negatives that made me say, okay, these are things I'm not gonna do, right? So because I think that's what parenting is all about. It's your opportunity to take the things that you thought were done well, and then leave the stuff on the table that you didn't, you know, necessarily think were done well, because there's no handbook, of course, right? So So some things I think I took away, like I say, the work ethic that my father instilled in us, even from just outside of just watching his example of him getting up and grinding and providing. You know, if we wanted anything, like when Nintendo came out, we wanted Nintendo. It was like, okay, man, you got a list of this, and this. and you got to do all these things before I'm gonna go and buy this Nintendo, you know, and
man,
then you come back behind with the white glove and make sure, yeah, exactly. You want to make sure everything is tip top perfect, you know, before you can get that. And so he instilled a certain work ethic in us, and so for that I'm forever grateful. We didn't always go to church every Sunday, but the presence of God was felt in our house. And so my father, you know, a lot of black households, you got the big Bible on the table.
For some reason, people ask why my Bible is so big.
We had a little statuette of Moses holding the 10 Commandments. My father, you know, so funny. My father sitting here at the table praying, and you know, me picking up, you know, bless this food that I'm about to receive for the nourishment of my body, and then the Son, my Lord and Savior Christ. But that's me picking that up from me just hearing him whenever we could sit down and eat together, just over and over, him just saying that, you know. So my father, I think that helped shape how I raised my kids, because I raised my kids like, you have to work for what you want in this life, you know. Nothing's going to be handed to you.
Yes.
You have
say
to
that again.
Right, exactly. You got to grind for it. And also raising my kids with that spiritual foundation, because there are going to be times in this life where the burden seems too heavy for you to bear, but there's always some higher power that can help you shoulder it. Nothing's too heavy for that higher power to bear, you know, carrying that. And I truly believe that, because that's been my experience in my life. So those things I think are important. Some things that he did that I have yet to do and I won't do. I say I hopefully I won't do, you know, but you know, my father being a disciplinarian, like I say, is a very real conversation, right? But he grew up in a very heavy-handed household. You know what I'm saying? I think that's just the way the culture was. So, I mean, some of the physical things that we had were things that by today he'd probably be locked up. You know what I'm saying? By today's standard, right?
I love this because I used to beat you with it.
So that's, I think, you know, so funny. I'm gonna take it back to Alpha real quick, but like, if you talk to the bros about my experience when I was online, like I the physical was not a thing to me, but a lot of that was because even growing up in my house, I don't want to make it sound like I was abused. It's like, you know, we didn't get just beat just for no reason or something, but if you did something, the punishment was pretty severe, right?
Right.
You know, from maybe from the belt to the extension cord to the orange utility cords. You know what I'm saying? So
whatever was in their hand.
Exactly. So for
whatever.
me, right. So for me, the physical, you know, aspect of pledging wasn't the difficult part, right? You know, and I think for a lot of people, we figure out, is we always say is, you know, 90% mental, 10% physical. You know, we say that, but you know, the physical aspect wasn't the issue for me. But anyways, like I say,
and for my viewers out there, Alpha Phi Alpha is a
non-hazing
organization. Just so you guys would know,
right?
When we talk about physical, we just talk about like the physical exercise and heat and that sort of thing. So.
Absolutely. Great disclaimer. Absolutely. So, you know, for me, you know, like I say, I don't do that. Like I really haven't had to, you know, I haven't had to, the one or two times that I may have had to discipline my kids physically, the corporal punishment has been with my hand on their bottom, like, don't do that, pack, and that's that. Like, I really haven't had to, because I think I'm consistent, like, about correction, right? So it's like when you're not consistent, and this has just been my experience, right? I can't speak to anybody else because every child is different, right? So in my experience, for me to correct my children is just about being consistent. And sometimes the mothers don't understand, because the mothers are like, man, you always welcome, you always got something to say. But then as they get older, then it's like they're more disciplined. You know, they're more you don't have to address so many things. So
Man,
anyways,
even
that's
when
just
we're
been my
not physical, they still got to come in and say, well, blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm trying to usher them into this thing called the world, manhood, or
right.
whatever. So you have to, you have to be
Right.
on them, especially with the boys, man.
Yes.
It's so crucial.
It
You
is
know?
because you look at, I'm telling you, like even with, and I know I'm getting off subject a little bit, but and I'm gonna say one more thing about my dad as far as a don't do thing, but even when you look at um how like these young men today, like whether it's like the guys that I coach or different things, they're I, I, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's like society is trying to demasculate some of the fellas. And I'm not talking about toxic masculinity, right? I don't even like that term, right? Because it's making masculinity seem like it's a negative thing.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we're talking about um guys having strength of character, or guys have,
Right.
walking upright and integrity and other, values that, I think every man should have, right? So I think ultimately, like that to me, some of that is because um we've lost sight of correct, like we don't want to correct every like you have the everybody gets a trophy. We don't want to correct our kids, like we're softening up a little bit too much.
Several signs of bitch assness: short-term memory loss, excessive excuses, chronic blinking.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't raise like my kids, I don't raise them that way. You know what I'm saying? I don't raise them that way. Everybody don't get a trophy. Everybody, I'm gonna correct you if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And like I say, my wife and I sometimes will disagree with that. We'll have disagreement, but I tell her, like, you gotta be consistent, because then you're sending mixed messages. You're saying, okay, it's okay sometimes, ha ha ha, it's cute. And then you want to jump down their throat when they do it, and they're like, okay, am I able to do this, or should I not do this, or what, right? So anyways, but that's that tangent. But the last thing that
I want to add on to something that you were saying. I mean, you know what? I think you hit the nail right on the head. And this is for parents, regardless if it's dads, single moms, or whatever. We have to restore what I consider the 3 P's in the kids. First, we got to let them know is process. Process is very important. You can't have everyone get a trophy and that sort of thing, because it dilutes the process.
Yeah.
Second, you got to have the second P is passion. If you're not eating, breathing, and sleeping what you want to work for, then why are you getting up in the morning? So you got to be able to do that as well. And last but not least, you got to have purpose, because that's the thing. All of these things that you are given are God's gifts. So in a sense, that's your purpose. So if we dilute any of those 3 P's, we're not going to get what we want as parents. What we want is to have kids that can be functional and live in the world. So when you're like,
can't nobody say this to my baby, can't nobody do this, or let me correct the teacher, or let me tell the coach how he should coach,
you're diluting the process. So please, I certainly agree with you with that. We have to restore that form. And I wouldn't even say it's just connected to masculinity. I think it's just connected to being a good parent. You got to instill those things,
Right.
But I'm off my soapbox. Go right ahead.
No, it's all right, because I was like, man, I got my club coming over here to do a film session, and I said I'm using that. I was just locking it away because I'm using that when they come through.
Hey, not a problem.